next week because I'm working with the women today, and you're going to work with Patio. So Patricia, you can send them on to their place, and we.
Actually, Thomas, do you mind if we warm up with you?
Okay, that would be fine. Let's all warm up then. Yeah, we ready? You can hear. We'll do it on me, me, ma, mo, and moo. All
Everybody, please remember to mute.
and you use the M to really get some vibration going in the sinuses. So it'll be me, me, ma, mo, moo. And the goal is to try to keep some of that vibrating buzz in the vowel when you actually sing it. Yeah? So spend plenty of time on the M. Here you go. Ready? Begin. Yeah, I can see that I can see just by looking at you that you're going to the vowel too quickly. Me, me, mo. It's mostly about the vibration of the M more than the vowel. Again, go. Next one. Two more. Last one. With yourselves singing, are you able to hear the piano enough? Over your aligned with your singing? Okay, it seems like that's the case. Good. So give me bravo. It's like the follows descending, and we'll do a good bravo and roll the R like crazy. And remember, if you can't roll the R, you substitute a D. Bada, bravo, bada, bada, badi. You know, you put a D in there if you can't roll an R. Every note your best note. Ready? Begin. Be sure that you have even vibrato on all of them. Do not straight tone any of the notes. Be sure there's vibrato on all of them. Let's do it again, and then we'll slide down to the lower fifth and back up. So we have bravo, 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 bravo. But at the right tempo. Ready? Begin. Now let's do the opposite direction where we start at the bottom. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Three of them, take a breath. Then bravo. But don't sound like that, please. But those are the notes that you sing. Here we go. Starting low. Begin. Breath. You understand that pattern? We've done that in class, I mean in rehearsal before, haven't we? Let's do it one more time. After three bravos, take a breath, you'll need it. Starting low. Begin. Every note vibrato. Breath. Your best notes. We'll do one more step. Let's start from this top. Starting from the top now. Begin. And slide down and back up. And begin from the bottom now. yo, yo, ho, 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 ho. Everything staccato. Ready? Begin. Keep going. Come on. 3 more. Last one. Now legato. Staccato again. Yo ho 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 ho. 2 more. Okay, good, gang, good. I guess it was good. I can't hear anything really, you know. Any questions? So, Patricia, get the guys out of here.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, gentlemen. In the chat, you should find a file. No, I don't see it. I'm gonna resend it or repost it here. 1 second. All right, so I just reposted that file. It says vocal technique session with John Eric. You can open that up if you like. It's just has some links to the stuff I'm going to be talking about.
Did
Okay.
everyone get that? I don't see it.
In the chat?
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I didn't get anything. For whatever
Okay.
reason.
Can other people find it?
Yeah, I got it. It's a
Okay.
download, guys.
Yeah.
It is.
Bizarre. Yeah, for some reason it didn't show up.
All right. So I can email that to you if you like. Just send me a message or whatever, and we'll follow up later. All right. So I want to talk to you about what's called the singer's formant. It's kind of a scientific explanation for why opera singers can be heard. So I'm going to share some stuff with you first and explain a little bit, demonstrate a little bit, and then you can ask some questions, and then we'll go into how you can use this knowledge to sing more efficiently, more healthily, if that's a word, and finally to deal with things like legato and finding again more efficient ways to use your instrument. So let me share my screen with you. Which one do I want? There we go. All right. So here is a document from the National, what is it called? National Center for Voice and Speech. This website is kind of old, and a lot of the files and links are broken, but the data here is still really good. So it says here, the orchestra seems really loud compared to a singer. And when we sing in our choral voices, that's definitely true. The orchestra will easily overwhelm a single untrained singer. But if you go to the opera, that's not the case. One opera singer, even at a soft dynamic level, can cut through the orchestra. And this little chart can explain why. So basically what you see here is on the bottom is basically loudness, how strong the, wait, I got that, sorry. The one on the left here is how strong the sound is, how strong the overtones are. And this is a frequency measure. So if you look at these.
So right now, we're going to work on only the second choir on Caught in Star Flame, whipped by Comet Last.
Do you hear Thomas? I don't know how we can get rid of that.
Oh. Patricia should be muted if she isn't.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so so basically these 3 lines indicate how the different instruments resonate. And we're talking about not only the fundamental, which is this peak right here, all the notes are roughly equal in strength, but the overtones that define the timbre of an instrument change. So for the orchestra, the solid line, as they get higher and higher, their overtones kind of fade away. And normal speech does that too. But when an opera singer sings, they get an extra bump at around 3,000 kilohertz. So what exactly does that mean? We'll talk about in a second. But the idea is that because of this, humans are able to kind of key in on a singer's voice and ignore what the instruments are doing there. So a singer is able to cut through that sound. So let's see if there's a better wording for that. The reason this is relevant lies in the orchestra, the solid line. As you can see, the orchestra produces lots of energy around 500 hertz. And again, that's the A above middle C. But it falls off steadily at higher frequencies, producing relatively little around 3,000, which is here. A well-trained operatic voice produces quite a bit of energy around 3,000 hertz. And so it can be heard even above the orchestra. So that's kind of the basic premise here. I'm going to use something called a spectrogram, and I'll show you a little bit more about how those work in a minute. Let's see, here's one right here. So basically, this maps my voice out, and you can see it moving as I speak. Down here at the bottom is just a time monitor, and up here are the kilohertz. So we're looking around 3,000 or maybe between 2,500 and 3,000. So if I sing a nice choral ooh vowel, you will not see much happening in this region, but you'll see a lot happening down here at the fundamental. Listen. Ooh. But if I turn that into an operatic ooh, you'll get a lot more buzz right in this range. Ooh. Let me compare those two for you. Ooh. So we'll talk a little bit more about how you do that. But the premise here is what we talked about earlier, that if things peak around 2,500 to 3,000, that's going to cut through a lot of other instrumental noise. If I just have strong fundamentals, it'll get buried, even by a piano. So that's why a chorus of untrained high school singers can't even compete with one piano, but one opera singer can compete with an entire orchestra. All right? Other vowels have the same factor here. If I go into opera mode, I strengthen that bit right around the 2,500 to 3,000 kilohertz. And E is a good obvious vowel too. E. Okay, so that's the first kind of concept here, that opera singers use their instrument, they shape their mouths and their throats and their lips to enhance the overtones right in the spectrum. We didn't do this because of the science. Opera singers have been doing this for hundreds of years because it works compared to an orchestra. So, you know, luckily some scientists have started to unpack that. Let me go back to this main document here. This guy, Johann Sundberg, I don't know when this book was published, I guess in the 70s, had just charts upon charts and graphs, and it was just beautiful for all the nerds in the world. So if you're curious about this stuff, the book is called The Science of Singing. I'm sure it's out of print by now, but it's got so much junk in it. And Johann Sundberg is one of the first scientists to really start to map this out. Now with like MRIs, and you can stick like little cameras down people's throats and do all this amazing stuff to kind of pull more context into this conversation. So I'm going to come back to spectrographs in a little bit, but I want to go into how you start to play with these ideas. So this is a chart here from the same guy that talks about how the vowels are distributed throughout the this overtone business. So again, this is not the fundamental. This has nothing to do with the note that you sing. You can sing any note, and this distribution of overtones will still be like this. So when I sang that ooh vowel, you could see that there was a strong presence in the bottom, and only when I made it the opera vowel did it turn up some spark here in this region. I need to share a different way. Let me try sharing something else here. I'm going to share my screen and my spectrogram at the same time. Okay. I've got so many things open at once. Okay. So, so check this out. Here again is a different spectrogram, and the range for the opera voice is right here in this range. Let me sing a vowel for you. So there's the buzz. Here's the choral vowel. No buzz. So basically what an opera singer is doing is mixing some of this sound into these other vowels. So if I do a normal speech-like ooh sound, ooh, you can see a strong low presence and no upper presence. If I do a vowel like over here, ah, I have to work a little bit to create something. And if I give you the E vowel, it already has some buzz, but it easily is enhanced. E. So the idea that the vowels naturally have an overtone distribution, if you will, that that allows people to hear, the individual vowel sound. And that's why when you sing in this altered speech pattern, this singing format pattern, that you're able to kind of blend these together a little bit, and you're able to still identify the vowel. Yeah? Let me see if I can find one more thing for you here. The two largest spaces in the vocal tract, the throat and the mouth, produce the two lowest resonant frequencies, or formants. These formants are designed as F1 and F2. One is resonating more in the back of the mouth, and one is resonating like right behind your teeth. So basically, an opera singer is trying to enhance the upper one. The opera singer is trying to enhance them both, really. And where am I at here? And so we blend those vowels together to create that. Okay, one more chart here. Actually not a chart, but rules for modifying vowels. This is pretty deep, and if you follow the links, it's easy to get lost on this website. Like I said, the more you explore, the more you'll find that a lot of these links are broken. Look at the dates here. This is almost 20 years old now. But the content is still really accurate. I mean, it's science. It doesn't change over 20 years. So all formant frequencies decrease uniformly as the length of the vocal tract increases. And that's the first strategy. So if you can sing any note on your own and try pushing your lips forward, what you're doing is basically making a longer instrument. And therefore, these overtones will stand out more. I get confused when they talk about the frequencies decrease uniformly. I'm not exactly sure why they talk about it that way, because to me it looks like they're enhanced, but I think I'm kind of crossing my wires, so to speak. Nevertheless, a longer instrument is going to give you more buzz in that operatic region. So again, just pushing the lips forward. Listen. It really does a number on that, on the vowel. The other one is that if you round your lips, let's see, all forms decrease uniformly. This is where I get confused again. So lip rounding is just, if you have your mouth spread wide open, you get a lot of presence up here, but not in the right way. So again, that's if I spread my mouth out, it's like I get noise, just like a speech pattern. Here it's all spread out. But if I round my lips and keep them pushed forward, then I get that enhanced quality right around 3000. So just some ideas here about how you manage these things and the things you use to do them. It's the back of the throat, the position of the larynx primarily, and also the way you shape your lips. All right, So I want to get in and explore these a little bit more, but let me pause at this point and see if anybody has any questions about what we're talking about. It's, I see a comment here. It's pretty, sorry, my kids are stomping around. It's pretty deep in terms of the science. I find I get easily confused until I start to experiment, but it works out. So Matt wrote, stupid eyebrow. Okay, that's something else. John writes, if you have trained to sing primarily using the opera technique, could that make it difficult to blend in a choral setting? Asking for a friend. Absolutely. So I think we all have kind of a storehouse of knowledge from the choir directors we've worked with in the past. My first choir director was in the Heinz Chapel Choir, which was all a cappella, all blend. It was all about making your voice individually disappear into the larger texture. And in that way, he didn't want any operatic tone. He didn't want that presence in the voice. He wanted better intonation and more blend. But in a chorus like we have, where Thomas and I both trained with Bob Page, he used to say that if everybody steps up and sings this way, it all blends together on its own. You don't have to, you don't have to be subservient to the group sound. You just have to deliver 100%. And if everybody does it, it sounds great. And I agree with that too. But there's kind of that buzzy quality does create a bit of an imbalance when you have strong singers and weak singers right next to each other. Matt writes, my thought is about the importance of listening to those around you. Although, yeah, so now we can edit it with our technology in this situation. But yeah, when you're singing next to other people, you just have to be sensitive to that. Thomas often chides the core for kind of singing over people instead of singing with them. Like we're going to prove that we know it by singing it louder. And we're capable of that, but that doesn't mean it's the right artistic choice. Yeah, good questions. Anybody else? You can feel free to speak up. All right. So the main tools that you use then are the way you shape your lips and the way you hold the back of your mouth together, your throat. So there's something I always do in the warm-up where I'm talking about the position of your tongue. And that to me is one of the key things, and it's one of the hardest to make work. So I'm going to show you a speaker view. You can see my face really close. I'm sorry for that. But you'll also be able to see how my tongue is angled a little bit. So let me change the view here. I'm not sure if I can change that for all of you or if it's just me. But put me on like spotlight view or whatever that is so you can see my big face. So if I sing that AO, AO, AO pattern that we often do. Let me do that lower. AO, 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 A. So the first task is to try to equalize the way the lips are oriented. So if you can get them forward, like we talked about, and then keep them there. That's the first step, and you smooth out your phrase that way. You're more reliably using that operatic formant. But the tongue wants to flop around because of the way the vowels are shaped. Watch again. A-O. And if I let it collapse into that O shape, all of my resonance goes away. I'm going to show you this little spectrogram over here again in the side. Go back to the meeting. So the A, you'll see it has a nice bright buzz, but when I do O, it'll fall away. A, O, A, O, A. So if you have different vowels in your words, that's the main culprit for your voice kind of not being uniform, not cutting through in the same way. So what you do then is you keep your tongue arched for the O vowel, basically freeze it in that A position, even though you're trying to make an O into it. Listen again, watch my tongue. It clearly changes shape a little bit, but I'm really working to keep it pushed up towards the front of my mouth. And what that does is it makes a smaller opening in the back, which helps to create that sound. So the basic premise here is that the lips should always stay forward, the tongue should always stay behind your bottom teeth, and it should always be arched up in the back a little bit. So basically everything feels like the A. Every vowel should follow that shape. Not so basically, using your arch of your tongue and the lips pushed forward are the two biggest tools that I can give you, which is why that AOAO exercise works really well. If you can minimize the physical movement, you'll generate a more consistent sound. Listen again, watch the little spectrogram. Compared to right? Those gaps are interruptions in my resonance.
John Eric, we're not seeing your spectrogram anymore.
You're not. It should be off to the right there. Bummer.
No, I'm not. Maybe
Can
I'm the
anybody
only
see
one.
it?
You stopped.
You stopped it.
sharing
You want us to
screen
look at you.
so we see your face.
I
Yeah.
see. Ah, of course. Okay, get rid of my face then. So you should see it off on the side now if you've gone off of your spotlight. Or maybe I do control that.
You
Let me
do.
go.
You control that. Yeah, we can't. I can't.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. I work on Teams. I don't know anything about Zoom. Zoom is a great mystery to me. But Teams, I got you covered. Okay, so the AOAO then, again, watch the spectrogram over here. Here's the amateur version. AO. And every time I do the O vowel, those buzzes go away. If I can keep the tongue arched, less of a fade, more presence throughout.
John Eric, you have to do screen sharing for us to see the spectrogram.
Man, I thought I was doing that. I guess I stopped. All right, I got to do it one more time now. Let me see if I can get your faces back. No, I can't. Okay, so here it is. Versus these interruptions here are what we're trying to avoid. Once more. Versus so you can hear the difference. I know you can, and it's more obvious that this connects through. All right, let me see what I'm sharing now. Okay. Thanks for getting me straight on that. Any other thoughts or questions before I go on? I want to share some different spectrograms with you and talk to you about legato as well. Any questions about how to establish that sound? What it is we're looking for when somebody says, you know, use your best voice?
So I've noticed I can, get more sound out of higher notes, and the lower I go, it's hard to project a lot of volume out of that.
Right. Yeah. Well, two things. First of all, the resonance is not the same as volume, even though it does appear that way. The resonance that buzzes here around 3,000 appears to us to be louder because it cuts through all the other noises in the orchestra or other instruments. No acoustic instrument can do what the human voice does there. And the other factor is that the human ear is better able to hear these higher frequencies than we are these lower ones. So we're kind of tuned into that buzz. And that's why when opera singers really cut loose, you know, we feel it because they're kind of hitting the sweet spot that humans are able to hear best. All right. Not the same as, I suppose, not the same as dogs and animals who might hear in different ranges a little better. And again, that's not a function of the pitch. It's the overtones that go with it. It's the timbre of the voice that we hear. So the other factor, Randy, is you definitely are going to have less volume in your low range. The low notes just don't have the same ability to power through. I don't know that I can exactly answer why that is, except that maybe you're more of a baritone than a bass, and those notes aren't where your instrument is best designed for.
If I may follow up on that,
Yes,
I mean,
please.
I don't know if this is the same question that Randy had, but for me, I find the technique also comes an issue. If I want to sing really low bass for notes, I need a lot of air for that. And if I try to push up my tongue, that inhibits the airflow.
That's a great point.
Makes it harder to do those low notes.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think because the instrument needs to be a bigger tube to make the low notes, then yeah, you're going to use more air. I find the same thing in falsetto, ironically, that I waste a ton of air singing in falsetto. That's a good point, Iris. Thank you. So I'm not sure I answered you, Randy, except that resonance is different than volume. And you may be more of a baritone or a low tenor than you are a low bass.
Well, you know, John Eric, I think as baritones and basses, that's a lot of times why we have to modify our vowels on those super low tones to kind of help bring it out a little bit more. So if it's an E vowel, you're just not going to hear it as well as if you open it up to like an ah, even though, and normally you can't tell, you know.
Well, yeah, you absolutely should be modifying your vowels. You know, again, and one of the tools you can use the spectrogram for is to find the best shape for that vowel. So let me pick a note that's low for me. This would be a B flat. I know, I'm just a tenor. So if I sing this on an E vowel, E, let me share my spectrogram again. I remembered. By artificially lowering my larynx, I get a bigger kick there, right? It's interesting how some of the other waves change too. Let me try a different vowel. So that last one I did, it sounded like it didn't sound pretty, but I arched my tongue up as I went, and I did get some kick off that. Let me try that again. Ooh. You can hear kind of a buzziness that comes in. So it's you can do that technique anywhere, and it will give you something that you can work with. It's just not going to be equal for all voices. This is a great point to segue. So let me pull back my documents. On the Word doc I sent, there's this little blog post. I don't know who this guy is. He has a name of another person I know named Brian Lee, but it's not him. So you can use these things to help you learn about your voice. This is not the kind of thing that you'd sing an aria with and analyze everything that you do, but experiment with what's the best shape for this note, for this vowel. And you can use the spectrogram to help you do that. In acquiring these overtones, it's essential to cross-check against function. That's the statement. It's easy to bring these things into play, but you're also introducing tension and you know, you're also introducing things that are going to reduce some of your efficiency in the end. And the main reason why is that not all voices are equally built for this. Some voices can sing Wagnerian opera. Some are better at bel canto. So, you know, Mozart people do your Mozart, Wagner people do your Wagner. You can train a little bit, but, you know, a swimmer doesn't necessarily make a good basketball player, right? So these formants, where am I at here? Before computers, these formants arrived as a byproduct of free resonant singing. I like that idea of the freeness, the relaxation. So you're trying to put these kind of tensions into play without overwhelming the need to be relaxed in your voice. I like how he says it here. Using a spectrographic analysis to check on what's functionally good sound is fine, but in the beginning stages, an underdeveloped technique combined with some counterproductive constriction can produce these formants. It can also ruin your voice. It can also tire your voice out really quickly. So I wouldn't use this as a I wouldn't use this without a good degree of warning. You can see if you're making the resonance, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it properly, right? You can create these effects in ways that will actually hurt your voice. So go ahead and play with it, but don't let this be your teacher. If you wanna play with this more, then you should eventually be consulting with somebody that can make sure you're singing healthy. Okay, so I've got a few of these that I found. The first one is by a guy named Boris Smoose, and for some reason it will not load in my Chrome browser, but it did load in my Edge browser, and that's the one you've been seeing. I like it because it's very responsive. The black and white is not as interesting. But it works. But I got two more for you that are a little more attractive and fun to play with. One is the Chrome Music Lab. This thing's really cool, and it's part of a package of things that Chrome has built in, including a shared piano. And if you were to use this one, basically anybody with the link at the bottom of this page when it loads would be able to join me in this virtual piano, and we could play together. So if you share that link with someone, we could all play piano together. And that's silly, but all right. I use it with my music students at Alderdice sometimes. The rhythm is kind of fun, just as a cute little toy. Again, better for kids than adults probably. All right, so that's just silliness. So the spectrogram then. Each instrument, you can see how the different waves are formed. So if you listen to a flute, you can see how uniform the distribution of sound is. And the reason why is that each instrument has a different distribution of overtones, and it's built to sound that way because it's a unique sound, right? These instrument shapes formed out of practice, not out of the science. So with the microphone feature, we get the same things we saw before, but without the graph attached to it. So you'll be able to see the difference here. Oh, sorry, ooh is a better one. Excuse me. The main thing I'm doing there is arching my tongue and making sure my lips are pushed forward. So notice how the vibrato develops. A lot of people have some different feelings about vibrato, especially if you're talking about singing with other people. It gets dicey. Not everybody's comfortable around vibrato, and some vibrato gets out of hand and turns into a wobble, which is definitely not what you're after. So what I want to talk about though is how if you've got your voice lined up right and that resonance around 3000 is working for you, then chances are you're going to get a little vibrato. And that's a good thing. It's basically, to me, a sign that your voice is healthy and that it's happy with the conditions you've given it. If you're restricting that vibrato, you're basically using the muscles to prevent a natural vibration. So think about the engine in a car. It has to vibrate. If it didn't vibrate, then the engine would end up tearing itself out of the car because of the tensions involved. But if you can allow that little bit of vibration to play, then it works. So again, I'm going to use the singer's formant, and you'll see the vibrato start. And it's not overdone. It's not a wobble. It's not out of control. But then I'll exaggerate that, and you'll see what happens to it in the spectrogram. Here it goes. So at some point, the fundamental starts to change so much that it's not a wiggle, it's a wobble, and that's too much. So if you're experimenting with that, a little bit's okay, a lot is probably not. But you hear that a lot in opera singers because the voice is satisfied with those, in my opinion anyway, the voice is happy with the degrees of tension that you put in play, and it's just going to vibrate to release a little bit of tension, a little bit of stress, and keep things moving along. So when you sing a nice legato phrase, you should be able to keep that vibrato moving nicely as you go down the scale. Listen. Mi, mi, ma, mo, mo. Oh, I started on the wrong note. I did the follow. So smooth connections between the notes, none of these gaps, and that's good that my voice is continuous. That's definitely legato. But if you can make the vibrato be part of your legato, then you've got it. Then you're doing what opera singers always do. It's the whole thing. It's not just I have a big voice. It's I have a big voice and I sing it at every instant of my line. Listen again. Mi, ma, mo, mo. And the only interruptions you should be seeing are for the consonants. And most trained singers are going to try to work to make the consonants part of that too. Here's another spectrogram. This is, I'll show you the link in a minute. This one's a little harder for me to pick out, but the nice thing is that it's got a sensitivity bar here. Let me do the same exercise. Mi, ma, mo, mo. And notice how that buzz stayed around the 3000 mark the whole time. Yeah? Versus that's not legato, too choppy. Really trying to connect, and if you can get the connection to happen around that 3000 mark, then you're doing it. Let me pull up this other spectrogram and go back to color. So bravo is a good one too. Bravo, 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 bravo. So again, you can see the fundamentals change, you can see the overtone shift, but this doesn't budge much because that's my operatic singer's formant that I'm trying to do. So this legato idea, I think, is the ultimate goal. And I do a lot of this with my voice students. And George Libby will tell you, we spent, a couple of years trying to work out the tiniest little nuances as you move from note to note and as you move from vowel to vowel. And all that's really useful, but it's nitty gritty, It might be more functional for you if you just think about trying to get that tongue arched, trying to get those lips forward, and then seeing if you can get this to appear on anything that you sing.
Hey, John?
Yes.
You're right about what you just said. And when Thomas asks us not to use vibrato, now that's difficult.
Yes. Well, it should be. Don't tell Thomas this, but senza vibrato is really not the healthiest way to sing. It is a good artistic goal. Sometimes you want that pristine clarity. But most choral music was written, especially for the women, it was written for boys and men. And that, you can easily ask boys to sing a straight tone, but an adult woman, not so much. That's why the sopranos really struggle the most with that. But to me, it's a fine artistic desire. And what I always take that to mean is I'm going to reduce my vibrato to a minimal level. But if I take it out, then you're asking me to squeeze my throat while I sing. And I don't think that's a healthy approach. Let me see if I can demonstrate.
Yeah, John Eric, I think the problem is also that when you remove the vibrato, the larynx tends to rise up too, and then you use the punch of the sound.
Yeah, absolutely. So you lose the buzz that we're looking for. I think it causes more fatigue, and I think it just interferes with healthy singing in a lot of ways. That's a good point, Matt. Thank you. But that doesn't mean that Thomas can't ask for that as an artistic goal. It's your job as the singer to parse that into what it means to you. For somebody that grew up in a British choral tradition, I think singing straight tone is a little more of a natural thing because you develop that habit when you're young. But again, I don't think it's optimal. Let me say it that way. I don't think it's optimal. A little bit of vibrato is a sign of a healthy voice. If you restrict that, I think it diminishes it a little bit. It takes some of the beauty out of the voice. I'm not saying it's a bad way to sing. I'm just saying it's not optimal. All right. So that's all I have. Let me show you the document I was working with, and you'll have this as well. So this guy's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't even know who this person is. He's got a weird little, um, where's it going to take me? He's got this strange page. I don't even know what GitHub is, but he apparently developed some stuff. He's an interaction engineer, whatever that means. But I find it fascinating. I just can't even figure out what this page is trying to tell me. Maybe some of you Googleites could translate it for me. The other two spectrograms I used were the Chrome Music Lab, and that last one, the kind of fuzzy one that had a adjustable sensor, was from the City University of Hong Kong. The other place that I visited today was the National Center for Voice and Speech. I wish this was more up to date, but it's very accurate. It's a little overwhelming in the scientific detail, but if you're curious about that, I would start here and then see where it takes you. There are some tutorials that seem aimed at kids, but again, the science is pretty dense. I can give you some more resources or lend you a book if you really want to dig in. And do remember, I want to close with this, that it's fine to play around with these tools, but a digital spectrogram on your computer is not a teacher. It can give you some insights, but it's not going to tell you that that's the right thing to do, right? It's just going to alert you to things that you may not have thought about before. And in that respect, it's a great tool. Okay. So that's all I have for right now. When we
Say, John Eric?
Yes, of course, Peter.
I have one quick comment, and depending on the time, a short anecdote. The comment is, I recently came across a statement that expanded my mind, because it said vibrato is a defining characteristic of Western art music.
Correct.
And isn't necessarily there in other musics.
Correct.
Oh, okay. And the anecdote is, about 40 years ago, when I was a graduate student, I sat in on a folk music of the Western continents class taught by a local expert at University of Illinois who was turned out to be world renowned. And at the same time, I was just having fun, not doing biophysics, by singing with a folk group that did Balkan music and dance. And when I got in the class to the section about Balkan, Bulgarian, Yugoslav folk musics, I said, well, I'm in this group. We could give a demo if you want. He said, okay. So our group came in one day and we sang about 5 or 6 of the songs that were in our repertory. And it kind of fits my natural voice because it's harsh and bright. And at the end of the demonstration—
I always say that about you, Peter. Peter's harsh and bright.
At the end of the demonstration, one of the voice students said, that was very nice, but doesn't that really hurt your throat when you sing like that? It does for me. And what I said was, no, if I try to sing bel canto with a nice covered choral sound, after a while that hurts my throat. So individual differences.
Absolutely. Let me suggest, and we've had this discussion before too, that the differences with different folk traditions, none of them had to deal with orchestras. So none of them ever had a need to develop this, right? But bel canto, especially around the time of Mozart, when the orchestra started to expand, they required something to be able to compete with that sound. And as the 1800s, when the orchestras got to be about 100, you had to be a virtuoso to compete. So that's why, as you said, it's a bel canto tradition because of the size of the orchestras that necessitated that. I will suggest, though, that if you are fatigued by good bel canto singing, you may be over singing and just trying to create volume for the sake of volume. And I do it too. It is my biggest flaw. Well, that and breathing, because I hate to breathe properly. But yeah, those two things combined, that's the main source of fatigue. If you're not supporting, And if you're trying to create more volume than you're acoustically setting up to generate, then yeah, you're gonna create fatigue. Good comment.
That singer's formant is so interesting because that is what allows us to be heard over an orchestra. And the reason is because that frequency range at 2 to 5 kilohertz, where that general squealo, ping, whatever people want to call it, that frequency range is almost non-existent in orchestral instruments.
Exactly right.
No, what's weird is that our brains fill in the rest.
Yeah,
you can't hear over the orchestra. I find that so fascinating, but it's true.
Yeah, it's not even a factor of the decibels. It's just that the human ear keys right into that human sound.
Yeah.
Which to me is also fascinating on a human level, not just the science. Okay, our breakout room is closing, guys. Thanks for spending the time with me. I'll see you again in 2 weeks, and we'll review on this and build on this with the goal of talking about endurance and building back our stamina, which is probably lacking for all of us.
Thanks,
John.
Yep. Take care, everybody.
Is there an opportunity for us to get a recording of a complete concert of of the concerts we've done?
That's a
on
good question.
It's on the website. You have two options. You can download individual tracks, or you can download the whole concert.
Okay. Boy, did I miss that. Thank you. I will search that out tomorrow.
In the members area.
Are the boys on their way, Patricia?
Yeah, they should all be here already.
We're here.
Oh, they are?
Yep.
Okay, great.
We're back.
I'm just looking at all the sopranos and altos. Okay, so Patricia, Polly, do you have announcements?
Nothing for me.
Okay.
Nothing for me.
All right. Anything from anyone?
We have a new president tomorrow.
Yay!
Yay.
Yay! Woohoo!
And you're not talking about Polly.
Right. No, unless
Of
one of
the
you
United
wants to
States.
take over.
Of the United States.
Yeah, no, Polly is a keeper.
We're just going to hang out. Let's just hang out for a little while. Whoever wants it. When you got to go, just go ahead and go.
Did anybody see the the short memorial service tonight at 5:30 at Biden?
Yes.
Yes,
it was beautiful.
Beautiful.
What was that for?
It was to commemorate the 400,000 lives lost from COVID. It was at the Lincoln Memorial, and they had 400 like luminaries going down towards the Capitol or towards the Washington Monument. Lit 1,000. So one candle represented 1,000 lives, and they had 400 candles.
Wow, amazing.
It was nice. It was beautiful. It was.
Did anyone hear church bells at 5:30?
Yes, that was the same thing.
I know, I
400
just
strokes
wondered
of
if
the
anyone
Episcopal
heard 'em,
churches.
because I didn't hear any. I know there was one downtown, and they lit up the courthouse. But I went out on my deck to see, see if I could hear anything. But,
yeah.
There's another really beautiful thing you could look up on YouTube. Probably most of you've seen it already. The Mar and Alsop with the Baltimore Symphony and all the players from all around the country doing both Fanfare for the Common Man and then Joan Tower's Fanfare for the Uncommon Woman. And it's really, really wonderful. I posted it on my Facebook page. So if you want to have a look, it's there, or just look it up on YouTube. Look up Mar and Alsop. It's really terrific.
All right.
we finally have a human being in the White House.
Right.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
Well, I've been thinking about how I'm going to build a facility for the Bach choir once I win the lottery tonight.
Oh, yeah. Good luck. What is it up to?
Like the Mega Million is up to 700 million, and the Powerball is 600 million something.
That'll build a nice